best leveling spec, and a few leveling tips for demon hunters in World of Warcraft Shadowlands. And additionally, what is the best covenant choice for demon hunters at this time, until they buff, until they rebalance something yet again. This is going to be a video full of variety of information related to your demon hunters. Please stick around if you play one or if you consider rolling one. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gyro, I'm your host here. Particularly warm welcome to you, as I always say lately, if you are one of the new subscribers, one of the new supporters of the growth of this channel, one of hopefully casual players just like the rest of us here. You're most welcome here. So, Demon Hunters, an OP, relatively easy mode class that I make no apologies for choosing as my only melee DPS and kind of main melee class of choice for Shadowlands. I am an altoholic. I used to have heaps of alts and I leveled like 26 of them until I did the great purge that you can see on my channel somewhere, where I was deleting a lot of alts, making visual space for myself for Shadowlands. Didn't want to have that many of them staring me in the face, basically. So Demon Hunter is the only one melee class, I always struggle with pronouncing that word, that survived the purge, and for a good reason. Why, in case you are still considering a Demon Hunter? Well, first of all, if you're like me, you wouldn't like too many buttons to press. So I like few buttons to press. I like relatively easy mode of operation, especially if you're in melee range, if you have to go in and out, go in and out. So Demon Hunters definitely are among the classes that have very few buttons to worry about. Demon Hunters do great damage in both specs that are available to Demon Hunters. And speaking of specs, Demon Hunters offer two roles that I personally prefer playing. I do not actually prefer playing DPS, but I can. I prefer to be a tank if it comes to that. Well, Demon Hunters give you both. They just cannot be healers. Demon Hunters also, in this very mobility unfriendly, I'm gonna say, World of Shadowlands, they have the greatest mobility. They are the greatest mobility class, full stop. Double jump, glide, fell rush, vengeful retreat, hop around with infernal strike, do whatever you want to do, reach the most unreachable places, and cover a lot of large distances by air if you were able to hop off a cliff and just then glide. That's fantastic. In Shadowlands, they are artificially hobbling us, artificially slowing us down everywhere, and even the Flight Master's whistle is not working. So, point is, any extra mobility when it comes to the class of choice is great. So all of this goes fantastically well for Demon Hunters in general, and in the leveling process particularly, because you have to traverse the whole maps, you have to go from one cliff to another cliff and all this kind of stuff, all these valleys to just glide over. That's fantastic, isn't it? So this is why I play Demon Hunter. That's just in case you are very new. I didn't want to rob you of that context, because context is important. Now we only have two specs to talk about, so choice is going to be fairly easy. It's going to be one or another, right, for leveling. Which one is the best one? Well, there are some particulars with the talents which we're going to discuss today, but generally, same as with Warlock's video, I'm going to just repeat myself here and say it depends on your playstyle, but both specs of Demon Hunters are perfectly viable for leveling. Perfectly fine. So, which is part of the reason why I didn't think that this video is going to be super long or very information rich as far as specs are concerned. That's why I thought, instead of spreading too little butter on too much bread, metaphor, we are going to also talk about what, in my humble opinion, is the best covenant choice, covenant ability ultimately that we are after, choice for Demon Hunters. That is going to be towards the end of the video. Now let's talk about the first spec, obviously. The one that everyone knows about, everyone sees Demon Hunters in Havoc spec. Havoc is the DPS spec, default DPS spec, naturally very good for leveling, very good for leveling. Well, biggest kind of signature stuff is the fact that it's crazy mobile, fantastically mobile, with all the abilities, dashing, vengeful retreating, flips and double jumps and glides. It offers tremendous burst. Contribution to this tremendous burst is also in the introduction of an extra new talent for Shadowlands, for Havoc Spec specifically, which is called Glaive Tempest. I spoke enough about that stuff in other videos. I do not want to just rehash content and repeat myself. We simply have to give the full picture to, I suppose, new people here. So, great self-sustain for Demon Hunters. The Demon Hunters are passively self-sustaining themselves in both specs. So Havoc simply slashes at the enemies and gets these soul fragments everywhere, those little purple thingos, and you just dash around, collect them, and you heal back up. Heal back up. I remember the good old days, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe my memory doesn't serve me right here, correct me in the comments down below. I remember the good old days when monks were first introduced in Mist of Pandaria into World of Warcraft, and I believe Windwalkers felt similarly. They were spawning all these little orbs and spheres, the ones that you could dash through and heal back up fantastically well. It felt like nothing could kill a properly moving, properly rolling around, properly serpent kicking around, flying around monk. These days I think they nerfed the healing component of those spheres tremendously, but Demon Hunter is still king in that regard, in regard of this semi-passive self-sustain. I really love it. It's fantastic. For leveling, you don't have to stop. That is a great thing, right? You can just go from one target to another target. Naturally, Havoc is still not a tanking spec, however. So you would do well, and that is your probably one common sense, but still a tip. Do not think, especially if you come from some other class and you feel general first, how OP Demon Hunter feels in general. You feel invincible, and you will definitely make a mistake of pulling too much, feeling like you can handle it, and then you won't be able to. So first of all, it's very important in the talents that we'll be discussing in a moment, it's very important to dedicate some time, or sorry, dedicate basically a pointer in the talents perhaps, or some keybinds, and basically planning your playstyle in such a way that you don't simply rely on pure DPS as Havoc. And I think that's the trick. The trick is to invest some into CC, into crowd control. Reduce the cooldown on one of your stun, AoE stun abilities. Remove the cost of fury from that stun ability, as the talents will show you. And that will allow you to be a lot more self-sustaining, because you'll have time to pause, to stop this whole crowd that you have maybe rallied around and, like, you know, collected as you were trying to kill as many targets as possible. You will be able to get out of dodge, heal, simply take a rest, you know, come back and finish them off. Havoc is fantastic on many levels. Havoc is great. Now, let's talk about Vengeance. Vengeance is tanking spec for Demon Hunters. Vengeance, as any tanking spec, does not output as much damage as Havoc does naturally. It's not a DPS spec. Okay, so less burst, but a lot more tanky, a lot harder to kill. Once again, I will show you in a moment. I will show you all the talents of mine for the Vengeance. But at the same time, what am I doing normally in my leveling specs, in general specs for Demon Hunter? Demon Hunter is a very simple class. It has very few abilities, even though Shadowlands dropped in a few here and there. For example, Immolation Aura used to be only available to Vengeance, only to tanks. But now Havoc also has Immolation Aura, so that kind of, well, tiny bit bloats the spec, I suppose. Now for Vengeance, Vengeance got a few talents repositioned, kind of a few things happened to it, but very passively. The Vengeance didn't get any new toys per se, such as Glaive Tempest for Havoc. So if you are after not just leveling as far as efficiency is concerned, but if you are after also experiencing a little bit of a new thing compared to what you might have been used to in Legion, might have gotten used to in BFA, then Vengeance, technically speaking, has less to offer you. However, while Havoc is fantastic for traversing longer distances by air, you jump off, you glide, and you dash in the air, and you can travel very far. So while that is a fact, Vengeance, in my opinion, is much better for traversing difficult terrain, hills, cliffs, valleys, sudden trenches, sudden whatever, on the ground. So that comes to kind of, well, I mean, you have to do both as you level, you have to do both as you play World of Warcraft, but at the same time, this is something to keep in mind, right? When you're in Havoc, you can be on a horse and jump off a cliff, and then dash straight away and go into gliding mode and traverse longer distances. As Vengeance, as a tank, you're just chugging along there on the ground, and there is something up there on a cliff, and you can use Infernal Strike to leap and get there. And then there is a huge trench, and you leap and get over to the other side. So there is a slight difference and benefits to both, I think, as far as mobility is concerned. So I'm talking here about mobility. I didn't want to say, look, Vengeance is not mobile. Vengeance is mobile, just not as mobile as Havoc. For that tiny bit less mobility, tiny bit less of burst damage, tiny bit less of output of damage per se, Vengeance compensates handsomely, in my opinion, with its self-sustain, with its very, very, well, tough, tanky build that is also very easy to play, in my opinion. This is not a full-blown class guide per se, these are just tips and my recommendations on the best leveling spec, hence I'm not going purely into press this, then press that, then press that. If you want that kind of video, talk to me in the comments down below, I'd be more than happy to put one together for you. So Vengeance fits into the modern world of Shadowlands, especially in the times of Threads of Fate. I keep talking about that system in several videos already, simply because of how deeply it impacted me and sort of disappointed me and kind of cut me a little bit as a person who was very hopeful and very much like, oh, adventure mode from Diablo came to World of Warcraft, but it didn't really, just mainly because of how stingy it is on experience. So currently, and again, I'm recording this video before any possible buffs, before we get hurt by Blizzard, hopefully. So until and before any buffs to experience gains in Threads of Fate in Shadowlands happen, it is still the best way to level if you are in Threads of Fate, and if you're not just purely doing the campaign, which I think you should do, by the way. Campaign is better than Threads of Fate, full stop. But if you are in Threads of Fate, your best way of leveling, as I said in that particular video, would be to do dungeons, chain run dungeons. And what is better than running dungeons than a tank? If you're a tank, your queue is 1 minute at maximum. If you're a DPS, your queue could be between 20 minutes and an hour, if you're unlucky. And then you are at the mercy of the tank, you are at the mercy of some other factors and stuff like this. So I don't enjoy queuing for dungeons as DPS, because you're both looked at as if you have to put out insane amounts of damage, so it's a lot of pressure, personal pressure, a lot more than on a tank, honestly. Tank is mostly test in patience, and DPS is more test in performance. Does it make sense? That is just a bonus little asterisk point for you. I know you didn't sign up for it when you clicked on this video. So Vengeance is great because you are running around and collecting heaps of mobs, knowing that you will not die, right? Unless you go completely unreasonable. And also you queue for dungeons without having to change a spec. That's my point. So you kind of more organically fit in that spec with these talents. You more organically fit into this mode of leveling through dungeons. Does it make sense? And that's probably all there is to say. Like I said at the top of the video, choose your adventure. Pick a class of Demon Hunter if you want melee, and pick a spec that more suits you. At the moment, I'm mostly in Vengeance spec, for example, when I'm recording this, because I chain run dungeons and occasionally I run around zones doing these highly XP unrewarding and highly demotivating bonus objectives, just because it's easier to do in tank. That's it. Now, before you go, as promised, I'm gonna share my opinions on what is the best currently in the game, what is the best Covenant choice for Demon Hunters. Without any kind of dancing around the topic, I think the best, absolutely best Covenant ability is Elysian Decree. Best Covenant choice, therefore, for Demon Hunters of both Havoc and of Vengeance would be Kyrian. Kyrian, very, very simple. So I can, you can see it in the footage, the one that I'm using in the background throughout this whole video, that Elysian Decree works as a sigil. It's on 1 minute cooldown. We can mouse over here for extra information, obviously. So we place the sigil on the ground. We round up our enemies, whether we're in Havoc, whether we're in Vengeance. Especially, it's particularly important for Vengeance. And then it detonates. It's a bomb. It detonates, doing a ton of damage, relatively a ton of damage to everyone, with decreased amount of damage beyond 5 targets, as now Blizzard is restricting the cleave damage from any ability, from Beast Cleave for Beastmasters, things like Elysian Decree, so deals reduced damage, as it says, beyond 5 targets. In my experience, so I have gone past the point in leveling of this character. I have gone past the point where I was selecting covenants. Unfortunately, silly me, I did not record exactly that. That's why we're going to Wowhead, and that's why I'm not showing to you explicitly the choices and the abilities as they are in the game. I am already with Elysian Decree, and I don't want to change my covenant to record this video. So you'll have to take my word for it. I simply went off going and reading about the abilities. I didn't test all 4 of them, so I genuinely welcome feedback, and I welcome information from you guys if you have chosen something else and you are absolutely in love with it. I genuinely, as a Demon Hunter player, I want to hear about it. Maybe I'm missing something. However, before you do that, Elysian Decree, first of all, even to me, it read better than any others that we're going to very quickly now go through. I won't waste your time. And also it feels great. It feels great. The cooldown is relatively low. That's important to me. The cooldown is low, so I can use it a lot more often. And the oomph, the bang for the buck, literal bang, boom, shattered soul fragments everywhere, everyone is dead, is just fantastic. In dungeons, in the open world, it just works really, really well. And in addition to that, from what I read on Twitter, from what I read on the forums, a lot of people, including people like professional writers of these different class guides for Wowhead, turns out everyone at the moment, before any buffs, before any nerfs, at the moment of publishing of this video, turns out that everyone is steering towards Elysian Decree and towards Kyrian Choice. It's kind of boring, because I think a lot of community people, including Preach Gaming, primarily was a champion of the cause of trying to tell Blizzard, please detach Covenant Choice from the power. Please detach that, otherwise everyone will at the end of the day pick only one that's most optimal right now. Right now it appears to me, and from the community as well, not just me, that Kyrian Choice seems to be the best for Demon Hunters, and I am enjoying it thoroughly as well. Let's very quickly, more just for completeness picture as opposed to not, let's just very quickly take a look at what else is there. So Venthea offers Sinful Brand. I read about Sinful Brand. It's the same cooldown, but it brands one enemy as opposed to explodes everyone, and I like to play a little bit more personally. I like to play in a bit of a, that's an unintended ad right there. I like to play in a bit of a AoE mode, so to speak. I like to play on multiple targets, right? So Sinful Brand brands the target, inflicting damage over time. It's a dot, but also decreases their attack and cast speed. And if you activate Metamorphosis, which also has a cooldown, quite substantial cooldown, so it then spreads to nearby targets. It's not bad, but it definitely didn't appeal to me enough to consider Sinful Brand over Elysian Decree. Let's go on. Necrolords. Necrolords offer Fodder to the Flame. As soon as I started reading this, it was like a straight up no from me. Why? Longer cooldown, double the cooldown, 2 minutes to wait until you can use it. And you spawn another target for yourself to kill before you get any benefit, whatever it is. It simply seems like making my life as a Demon Hunter, making my life as a casual player who is just leveling here in this context of this video, especially if I stick to the topic. Why would I want to summon a demon from Theater of Pain, to defeat them, to increase my damage for 20 seconds? 20 seconds! If it was increased for like a minute, okay, maybe I'd consider it. Anyway, it's just laughable, in my opinion. The only other contender that I think personally is there, the only other contender would be, in my opinion, the Hunt from Night Fae. Slightly longer cooldown, but apparently you can charge the target, striking them for nature damage, rooting them in place, inflicting heaps of damage over time, and up to 5 enemies in your path as you charge through them. That's cool. It heals you a little bit, yeah. It looks fun. It looks like I would have tested it, to be honest with you. I probably would be worth my while. So the hunt would be maybe second on my list at the moment, as I confess to you speculatively, because I didn't test it properly myself. But this is what it is. In my opinion, recommendation to my people: go with Kyrian, go with Elysian Decree. And this is all I had for you today, my friends. Maybe it felt a little bit jumbled up as far as topics are concerned, but hopefully the table of contents and everything else helped you on your way through the video. Tell me in the comments down below, what do you level as being a demon hunter? What is your spec of choice? Do you agree with my selection of talents, the ones that I showed to you when I was talking about the abilities and about the specs themselves? Do you agree on the Elysian Decree being currently, at least seems like, the best choice, and Kyrian being the best choice of a Covenant for Demon Hunters? I would love to hear. If not, then why? What am I missing? Is the hunt actually that awesome? Has anyone out of my people, has anyone picked the hunt over Sinful Brand and over Elysian Decree? I'd love to hear from you guys, because we have the luxury of having a larger sample size. There are a lot of us here. We all unite kind of under this banner of casual players who are leveling and chilling and talking to each other in a friendly way. So instead of testing everything myself, I trust a lot of you. Just talk to me in the comments down below, and hopefully my advice also counts for something. Hopefully it helped you out. If it did, please never forget to like the video, because YouTube needs to know that you like it so that it shows it to more people. It really helps the growth of the channel, and the more of us here passionate people, the merrier, right? I'm sure you would agree. Thanks very much for tuning in today. Another video in a few days' time. Talk to you later. Bye bye.